We've all been there. Someone walks onto the stage and starts giving a speech, and before you know it, the audience is clapping and they're leaving the stage. And you didn't hear a single word they said because you tuned them out. If this has happened to you, don't worry, it's not your fault. That's the fault of the speaker. The speaker didn't give you a good enough reason to pay attention to them, so your brain determined that it was a better use of time to think about something else. Today, I want to teach you how to avoid that problem and give you 2 simple tricks that will help command attention from the audience and engage them in your speeches. The first 16 seconds of your speech are the most important. Why 16? Because that's 2 times as long as the average human attention span. For the first 8 seconds, everyone is with you and everyone is paying attention. For the next 8 though, that's when their brains are deciding whether or not they should stay with you or tune you out. So you have 16 seconds to hook them in or you risk losing them for the entire speech. This is where you can employ the yes method. The yes method is very simple. All you have to do is get the audience saying yes inside their heads to get them hooked. Things like, yes, that makes sense, or yes, I agree with you, or even, yeah, I've never thought of it that way before. These are things that if you can get the audience to think, it gives them more of a reason to pay attention to you, because now you're relatable. Now the speech is personal. They think that you think like them, and that gives them more of an incentive to listen. I want to give you an amazing example of this from an amazing TED Talk by Celeste Headlee called 10 Ways to Have a Better Conversation. Here are the first 16 seconds.
All right, I want to see a show of hands. How many of you have ever unfriended someone on Facebook because they said something offensive about politics or religion, childcare, food? And how many of you know at least one person that you avoid because you just don't want to talk to them?
I love this example because you know it worked. In the audience, there are people nodding and laughing, and they raise their hands when she asks questions. She hooked almost everyone in the audience in just 16 seconds. Did at any point she tell you what she was going to talk about? Did she walk up to the stage and say, I'm going to give you 10 ways to have a better conversation? No, because that's not what the first 16 seconds are for. That's what comes after the hook. Which brings me to my next tip. I've seen speeches that have amazing hooks, but then fail to follow up. The follow-up is crucial. If you don't give me a reason to stay with you, I won't, and my mind is going to drift elsewhere. This brings me to tip number 2. As you're writing your intro, the part after your hook, a good way to make sure the audience stays engaged is to set up a problem the rest of your speech can then solve, because that's all speeches really are. In an educational speech, the problem is I have some information that could be useful or interesting to you, and you don't have it. In a persuasive speech, the problem is you're on this side of the argument, but you really should be on this side. At a speech for something like a wedding, the problem is this amazing couple is getting married and you don't know enough about them. Every speech can be framed like a problem that the rest of the speech then solves. In my TEDx talk, I go over how to ask better questions. After I hook them, I give them some common uses of questions. And then I give the audience some uncommon uses of questions, some cool things you can do with them. The problem I set up for them is that there are more uses to questions that they don't know, and that can help them. So it gives them a reason to listen. Set up your speech with a hook that grabs the audience in, create a problem that they want to see solved, and then solve it for them. That's how you maintain audience engagement. If this interested you at all, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'd love to talk about it more in the comments, so if you have questions, please ask them. And if you have suggestions, I'd love to hear them. I'd like to do a lot more on this channel. Thanks for your time.